whatever the yields we talk about, let's say on the bonds, where we talk about equating the present value of cash inflows with the present value of cash outflows. Whatever the IRR we are going to get is what we talk about as the yield of the bond. But in most of those cases, that yield is a nominal yield, or probably it's a money yield, but not the real yield. So because generally the cash flows which we talk about for the future, the coupons or any cash flows which we talk about in the future, they are nominal cash flows only. Generally they are not adjusted for inflation. And even the discount rate which we are using, even that is a nominal one. So whatever the yield we are getting is also a kind of a nominal yield or a money yield only. But especially in those countries where the inflation is very high, there is a huge difference between a money yield and a real yield. A nominal yield and a real yield, there is a huge difference. It may so happen that the money rate of return can be very much positive, but the real rate of return could be negative. So it's very important for us to understand the computations of the same to make sure that we do the analysis of the securities quite comfortably. As we all know, one key relationship between the nominal yield or money yield and the real yield, it goes like 1 plus money rate of return or money yield. See here, I'll be using these two words interchangeably, yield and rate of return. Right? Both of them will mean the same for us. So 1 plus money rate of return is always equivalent to 1 plus real rate of return multiplied by 1 plus inflation rate. The inflation rate is basically a change in some index, generally a retail index or a consumer price index, the percentage change in that particular index is what is the contributor of inflation, and the money rate of interest and the real rate of interest. So probably from here, if at all I know my money rate of return and I also know the inflation percentage in a year, I can very well compute what we call as the real rate of return. Now, in some cases what could happen is, here I would like to mention two important kinds of securities. One, a fixed income security. Generally, the cash flows are the coupons at regular points in time. They are fixed, right? The coupons are fixed. Some amounts at different points in time, they are fixed, and probably a principal also comes out on the maturity. Either that could be the case, or it could even talk about an equity security wherein some dividends need not be the same amounts. Some dividends are paid at different points in time. So in both these cases, what is happening is the cash flows in general, they are not adjusted for inflation. They are not adjusted for inflation. Mean even if the inflation is high or low, I'm going to get the same C in that particular period. It has nothing to do with the inflation during that particular period. So if I'm getting the same C, if the inflation is very high, probably the purchasing power of that C is much lesser. And if the inflation is very much lesser, it looks as if the C which I have got is much higher. But otherwise, there is no adjustment to that C. So whatever the return that we are computing using that mechanism, we call it as a money rate of return itself. But if I say based on this, if I want to find out the real rate of return, let's say I have these as my future cash flows or these as my future expected cash flows, I want to find out the real rate of return. It's very simple. Let's say on this period, so let me call them as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have purchased a bond by paying P rupees. I have purchased the bond on this date, and these are the cash flows that the bond is paying at the end of 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and 4 year. Now, as on this date, probably I will look out for some inflation related index. Let's say a retail price index. I'll find what is that index as on the date when I have purchased the bond. So again I will see on this date after 1 year what is the index rate as on the purchase of this bond. Now whatever is the change in this index, that is purely because of inflation. So what I would try to do is, if at all I have to compute a real rate of return, this C I will adjust with RPI divided by RPI1. Means I will multiply it with, see, when the coupon I am getting is the coupon of C I am getting when the retail price index is RPI1. But in case the retail price index was the same as that of my date of purchase, because I am seeing in case there was no inflation, what could be the adjusted coupon price? Right? What we are saying is this coupon has even the real increase as well as the contribution of inflation. So if I remove the contribution of inflation from the coupon, means in case the retail price index was I only instead of I1, or probably I'll call it as I0, RPI 0. So in case the retail price index was RPI 0 only even after the first year, means there was no change, means there is no inflation. What could have been the adjusted coupon? So this is the coupon I will take for this period. Similarly here I will take it by multiplying RPI 0 by RPI 2, RPI 0 by RPI 3. Like that, all the retail price indexes I adjust. RPI 0 by RPI 4. So I am adjusting the cash flows into the real terms, because the C's and P's whatever I am getting in future, they are all in the money terms. So I will try to adjust them by removing the impact of inflation by multiplying with whatever is the reference index. Sometimes I may use retail price index, sometimes I may use consumer price index, sometimes I may use the wholesale price index, whatever is the mechanism that is being used as a measure of inflation. So we convert all the cash flows into the real terms by adjusting it, multiplying it like this, and after that, so using the updated coupons and updated redemption value, we will go ahead solving the equation. We discount them to the present values, equate it to the price, and then find out whatever the IRR of that particular bond is, and that is what we call as the real rate of return associated with that bond. So the same logic applies to an equity also. Depending on whatever is the dividend that is expected in the future.